the Cleaning Lady Association would be like protesting against AI.
You're their hero. You're saving somebody's day by showing up on time and explaining what you're going to do.
You told me this and that, and it's not happening, and I'm not getting this support, and the people aren't buying those yogurts, Greg.
They're just a name in the face. So they just go out there and shake hands, kiss the babies, and say, yeah, go into my restaurant. It's great.
But I know my wife and your wife are not listening to these episodes by any stretch of the imagination.
Unless we get to cloning or something like that, until we get there with AI and everything, I don't think it'll be possible for him.
The franchise world is exploding right now, and I thought, you know what? Instead of just talking about franchises and what's going to go on, let's bring the franchise Maven, who's written books about franchises, help people constantly go into franchises, making sure you can determine what's a good franchise, what's not a good franchise, and help your family build wealth. So today we have Greg Mohr, franchise Maven, written books about franchises, has owned franchises in the past, has consulted hundreds of people on what they should do for a franchise, and also building significant wealth for people who are just looking to get into something new. So Greg, thanks so much for coming on. We're really excited for this conversation and to enlighten our listeners.
It's an honor to be here today. I appreciate you two having me. Feel free to ask me anything you want.
All right, we're going to get right into it. So when does a franchise suck?
When does a franchise suck?
When do you have to get out of a franchise if someone sold you to get into it?
People get out of franchises for various reasons. Most of the time, they built it up to a point where they are ready to sell, so they've built up a nice net income on that, and then they want to get out of it. I've had people get out of it for various reasons. Most of the time, my people that want to get out of it is they want to try something different. They built it up to a certain point, and they're ready to try a new adventure on that. They're very easy to sell. Franchises are very easy to sell. You tell the franchisor you want to sell the business. They usually tell other franchisees, and other franchisees will pick it up first. Occasionally we get some good resales, not too terribly often on that because other franchisees will pick them up right away.
Gotcha. So when somebody is thinking about going into a franchise, what should they look for in that franchise?
You want to look for support systems. What is that franchisor going to do to help you grow your business on that? So if you have something like a service industry, maybe HVAC, plumbing, electrical, things like that, you want a call center. You don't want to be the one that's going to be answering the phone calls all the time. You want them, one, to drive people to you, drive traffic to you when that need arises. And once they're driven to you, then what you want is you want a call center to field the calls from the clients that you have. So that when you get up in the morning, all you do, or your manager, if you want to run it semi-absentee, all they do is look at the schedule, see who you need to call upon, go out there, you're their hero, you're saving somebody's day by showing up on time and explaining what you're going to do, but you want that franchisor to drive people to you when that need arises. Also have that call center. And then if you're going to get into a brick and mortar franchise, then you want somebody who's going to, one, pick out the real estate for you, do the lease negotiation for you, because they shouldn't expect you to be the one that's a good real estate person or a lease negotiator. You want that franchise to do that. If you have something like a membership model, you want to look for franchises that drive that membership before you open up your business. In addition to that, you want a grand opening team as well that's going to help you with that grand opening on that. You also want a good team of people that can do the marketing or show you at least where to do the marketing at on that. You never want to be wondering or guessing what you do next with any type of franchise that you get into.
So it sounds like, from our point of view, a franchise, there's a big upfront cost to it. It sounds like you got to come up with a nice amount of money to give to the franchise holder. Then you're giving a percentage of your sales every month or whatnot to the franchise holder for ad infinitum. So you got to really get a lot of value back. So, you've mentioned some of the items that you're getting. It sounds to me like you're going to pay that a large amount of money, but you also almost like, if I was going to consider a franchise, I almost want to have like there's no guarantees, but I almost want to have a guarantee that I'm going to be successful and I'm going to be able to have some good projection on what my income is going to be if I'm going to make that contribution. I'm just wondering, like, what is it? Like, you mentioned some of the items that the franchisor, the grantor will offer, but maybe just, give us a down and dirty idea of what we're getting, why would someone like myself, let's say I'm going to be looking for a franchise, why would I want to do that?
Great question, David. What you want to be looking at there is, first off, the cost. And no matter what franchise you get into, you're looking at a one-time fee of around $50,000. It doesn't matter if it's a service industry where it's not too much money or a brick and mortar where it's a lot of money. One-time franchise fee gets you everything you need to know on how to run that business. Ongoing royalties are going to be between 5 and 10% as a general rule.
And that's gross sales? That's on top of gross sales?
Off the top, 5 to 10% on that one. A large amount of money to spend. If you're looking at the service industry, you're looking at around $150,000 total investment. Brick and mortar can go $300,000 on up. What you're looking for in that franchise business, there's a couple things that you mentioned, so we'll go over a couple of them there, is you want that franchise to get you to where you want to be 2 to 3 years quicker than if you were to do it yourself. I always tell people, do a comparison, figure out what it takes to start a business yourself. And then at the same time, look at that franchise system, see what they're going to do for you to build that up. As far as guarantees, what you want to do is in those franchise disclosure documents, in there, there's going to be a list of the franchisees who currently started the business and a list of the franchisees who started it and are no longer running the business. Pretty easy math to get a success rate out of those. You want to see, and what we like to see is 85 or 90% success rate or better for that franchise. That means they're good at picking out people who are going to be successful in their franchise system.
So which specific franchise, sorry for interrupting, sorry, not sorry, but which specific franchises have you seen the best rate?
Every single one that I work with are all around 85, 90% or better.
So please give us a little more specific.
Oh, sure. Okay. So if you're going to look at something and you want to increase your success rate, you want to look for, let's say the service industry, for instance, you want to do a powerhouse brand like that. Neighborly brands, Mr. Rooter, Mr. Electric, Molly Maids on there. If you look at, they have like 20 different franchises in their franchise groups, and they are the largest home services franchise group in the U.S. Authority brands, Mr. Sparky, 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning, Benjamin Franklin Plumber. They've got a few others in there as well. And they've all got more than 100 franchisees in each one of their different brands that they have. Great powerhouse brand to go in their happiness brands. They've got quite a few on their Belfour Group. Belfour Group is the largest restoration company in the world. You'll see them doing the cleanup for the hurricanes in there. 1-800 water damage is one that they do that does restoration services. Again, huge success rate, great people, great businesses on there. And back to David's questions, what you're looking for there is also in the franchise disclosure documents, you're going to be looking under item number 19. That will be the earnings claims. So what you want to do is you want to look at the earnings claims in each one of those and see what the potential is on those. Now, even though the franchisor has those earnings claim in there so you can get kind of a general idea of how much you can make, you want to follow that up with talking with as many franchisees as possible to validate all of that information. Because one thing that everybody does when they get into the world of franchising is how much can I make? How soon can I start making it? And what do I got to do to get there? So that's what you need to do, is go out and talk with as many franchisees as possible so you can gather that information. Before you sign anything, before you give any money away, you'll have that information working through me or go through my book. You can do it yourself. My book's kind of a do-it-yourselfer thing on there, but those are the things that you look for. Keep in mind, all those franchisees that you're going to be speaking with, they've been in your position before. They've asked the same questions, and they're going to be friends that you make, because most franchises give out a protected territory, so the franchisees are never competing with each other. So they're also going to be your friends, as well as a franchisor that's going to help you grow that business, and you're all going to build those brands together.
Got it. So if somebody is trying to just get into business and they said, you know what, I made money as a banker, but I want to get into franchises, is it a good place for them? Or is there really just significant amount of work you need some expertise to get into? Or does somebody just off the street that has a little bit of cash can get into the franchise and actually be successful? What is the type of personality that should be going to franchises?
One, self-starter. You guys still got to be a self-starter. That franchise is not going to call you up in the morning and make certain that you got up and you're doing it. So you got to get out there and you got to be a self-starter. You have to have a little bit of risk tolerance on there. Getting into any business is risky. It's still risky. We reduce the risk by getting into solid brands that have been around for years and years with a few hundred franchisees, but there's still a risk on there. So self-starter, got to have a little bit of risk tolerance on there, and you got to be able to be mentored on there. You're going to have a mentor. They're going to show you what to do. They're going to walk you through it. They're going to work with you each week to get it going. Those three things are really what's needed. I would say, in answer to your question, there's probably a franchise for just about everybody out there, but not everybody is for franchising. Probably some of my young entrepreneurs would like to do things themselves, got lots of energy. Maybe not for them if they don't want the rules, because there's going to be some rules and restrictions, and there's what you can and can't do on there. Although my older entrepreneurs who have all done it before, they're kind of surprising. They come back to me and then they love getting into a franchise after doing it themselves for a few years because it's simple. It's just business in a box. You just step right in. This is the step-by-step process that you do. Follow that. Your chances of success are that much greater.
So let's talk about somebody put in, and the good examples my dad was saying was somebody gives $50,000. They put money up front.
Mm-hmm.
As the questions that you said before, how much work do I have to put in? How quickly can I start making money? And how quickly can I make an exit? Can you answer those three questions?
Certainly. So how quickly can you start making money and how much time and effort? So let's start with time and effort. If you're looking at something that's a semi-absentee franchise, you can get semi-absentees and you got your full-times on there. Semi-absentee, generally 10 to 15 hours a week, managing the manager, managing the profit and loss statements on those. You can go full-time. You can do whatever hours you want to do on there. How soon can you start making money? Really depends on how much effort you put into that business to begin with on that. With the service industry, basically you get into the franchise, you get trained. Once you get trained, you're out and you're going right away. You might have a couple months of business licenses if you need any equipment to get up and running. But within the first year, if you're a real go-getter, you should be out there and bringing in a good deal of money right away.
What does a good deal of money mean? Because a good deal of money where we live is very different than a good deal of money
That's
where
true.
other people
That's going
live.
to be a matter of perspective on that. Generally speaking, the service industry in general are looking to have people make a good six-figure income on that one.
Per
Depending on
franchise.
per franchise territory.
Per
Well, what's
franchise.
your projection on when a person can expect to get back his investment? Does it
We
take him
don't do
3
that sort of
years,
thing.
4 years? How long does it take him to get back that 150 that he put in?
We can't be real specific on the franchises because the Federal Trade Commission has specific rules about what we can say about how much they can make per franchise, what that is. But projection-wise, in general, with the service industry, you're looking at probably the first year or two of really
That's not
getting the
bad.
money back and making some good income. You put
Oh,
your
yeah.
effort and time into it, and it really depends a lot on you to go out there and do it. But you can, I've seen my people, be cash flow positive within a year. 2 years if they do it semi-absentee. So it's really not that long for the service industry on that because you don't need a huge investment, 150,000 give or take, small office, and you're up and running right away.
But it sounds like you're talking about mostly franchises for service industry. Like, when I think of franchises, I think of Burger King, McDonald's. That's what I think about when I think about a franchise. In fact, I have my oldest son. He has a gym in New Jersey, and he's tried to franchise, but he just has not been able to. Like he
Per-
wants to be a
Not a lot I can do there.
franchisor, a grantor of franchises, because but it just doesn't lend itself to it. Not every business is good for the franchise.
That's true on that one. So first off, the brick and mortar is going to be a little while longer. So when you're looking at the brick and mortar type franchise, you need to find a good real estate location. That's where I indicated before, where the franchisor helps you. That may take 6 or 9 months to get that, to find that location, and then you have to build out that location as well. So that's a little while longer, and now you have more fixed costs in that. So you're looking, 3 or 4 years down the line, maybe, depending on the actual investment of the franchise, for you to start being cash flow positive and get everything paid back. So it might take a little while longer, and it really depends a lot on the franchise itself. And David, as far as your question goes about becoming a franchise, on that, there's 3 things we look at for businesses to become a franchise. These aren't set in stone, but these really will help you grow your business quicker. First off, are you netting 100,000 or more on that? Because that's what most people are looking for per franchise territory, is to bring in a good 6-figure income So if you're netting 100,000 or more, that's a plus. It attracts more people to you. Have you reproduced your business once, twice? Do you have more than one corporate location basically on that one? The more you've reproduced it, the more people see that you've got the systems in place and the processes in place where you can just open it up in another location and get it going on that. That's a positive thing. The other thing is your product or services, can they be used by as many people as possible in as many cities and states as possible on that? So that really opens you up to have more people that would be interested in your franchise.
Yeah,
I think
my
those are
brother is
all
not.
things that I think all
My
those are things that my son does not have.
it's a zero. I'm like reading through like the list. It's like no, 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 no,
He
no.
tried to open up himself like a second
They
location, but
can't.
it's a lot of it is his own personality, so that he cannot duplicate. But even though he wants to, like you want to have like Retro Fitness, which have all these gyms all over the place. He wants to have like a franchise like that, but it's just, every time he opened even a second branch, it just never worked.
So let's talk about that for a second. So like Retro Fitness for example is a huge brand with huge overhead. They're charging pennies. Are these successful franchises? Like, are these also good franchises, or you're thinking more of the local, like not Retro is like a global, a national gym. It's a very different. So what about like these huge franchises? Like, what about those? Are those really that profitable?
Generally speaking, if you've got, I would say the first 20 franchises, you're an emerging franchise brand. So first 20 locations, you're still an emerging brand. You're still not quite there to where we'll know for certain whether it's going to be a great franchise or not. Once you hit the 100 franchisee mark, then you're pretty well set. Not always, but pretty well set in that you've had enough people analyze your data and are looking at that, and then people have been around long enough to where you know that they're going to be profitable, and you've got people to call upon to find out just how profitable they are on that. So the first few franchises, if you get into an emerging brand, you are taking a little bit more of a risk with that. So if you don't want to take a risk, you go into the ones that have been around for 5-10 years, got a good track record of success on there. It's hard to tell whether a franchise necessarily is going to take off right away and going to be hugely successful on that. Uh, if you don't mind taking a little bit of risk on that one, it could be very well. Obviously, the people that got into Orange Theory right away, it took off pretty well, and it was very nice. But you have to analyze the data. If you don't have the data to analyze and it hasn't been around too long, you really have to have a lot of faith and a lot of trust in the people that develop that franchise. You really have to believe in them at that point in time, because that's all you will have to go on.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
I
but
think you got to identify the critical reasons of success for even the first location, and then see if if it can be duplicated, correctly. Like with my son's gym, it's impossible. I mean, he just doesn't want to accept it. But a lot of it's his own personality, and he just, as much as he
I do
wants.
want to get into the cloning, not the cloning, but the AI cleaning lady business. That's a good business. Knock out all cleaning ladies. Imagine that. There'd be like whole protest. Who would be protesting? I'd like to see the cleaning lady association would be like protesting against AI. It would be
You're putting
interesting.
people out of business. So, what would be the best industry?
Yeah.
Let's say I want to
Greg,
start a
be
new
real with
business.
us.
I want to go into business. I've been doing what I've been doing for 30 years. I want to change or whatever. My wife is free or whatever. She's driving me crazy and needs a job.
If you
What
want
would
to
be
put,
the
if you want
best
to have a business
industry
to
that I
fail,
would choose for me or her to go to go into? Like, I
as
don't
my
know anything
grand,
about HVAC. I don't know anything about, I'm not going to be sweeping the floor or anything like that. But like, what would be great? What would be a good thing to do?
if you want to have a business to fail, put my mom in charge. Don't you worry.
Is your grandmother?
Her too.
What I
No
do
worries.
is I look at three things. So I look at, where have you been? So what do you bring to the table? What's your background? What's your experience? So I know what your skill set is. Where are you at now? How much time are you looking to invest in the business? How much money are you comfortable investing in the business? So I know where you're at today. Tomorrow, 5 to 10 years down the road, where do you want to be? What do you see yourself doing? Amongst a lot of other questions that I go into, but I go into that. So I really have to find out a lot about you and find out what it is that interests you and doesn't interest you. Now, if you've got experience running teams, running with people, HVAC, plumbing, electrical is just fine. Most of the time, what you're going to be doing with those is you're going to have a master plumber or a master electrician, and that's the person that you're going to be working with. So as long as you're good with people on that, you don't necessarily have to understand anything about plumbing, anything about electrical, because you're not going to be allowed to do anything anyway. And most of the time, even if you can do it, franchisors don't want you working in the business. They want you working on it. So they're looking for people who are going to get out in the community, who are going to grow their teams, who are going to do the networking thing and go out there and let people know, this is my business. Here's what I can do for you. We're going to show up on time. We're going to get the work done on a timely manner. It's going to be accurate projections of how much it's going to cost. That's what they're looking for, and that's what the franchisors are looking for, is people that are really going to go out there in their community and build that up. So, but then you have to feel good about it as well. I mean, David, if your wife says, I don't feel good about running an HVAC company, even though it's a great moneymaker and everybody needs it, essential services, well, let's find something then. What do you feel comfortable doing? Maybe a lawn care company on that, maybe a kitchen remodeling on that, bathroom remodeling. All sorts of different franchises and all sorts of different industries that you can do out there. Nail salons, massage places.
Let me ask you this though. Let's say we go with a franchise, but we still. I mean, the grantor of the franchise is not bringing me in necessarily sales. They're not going to bring me in business. I mean, we're going to hopefully have name recognition, and you're going to get some advertising. But they're not going to give me, okay, you're going to be open up a nail salon at at Main Street, and we know already that you're going to get we're going to help you get this amount of business. That's not going to happen. It's up to you, right? Completely.
Yes and no on that one. Yes, it is up to you to get the business. No, you don't have to figure it out all by yourself. They've done it before, and especially if you get into one that's done it so many times before, they've already made the mistakes, so they know what not to do, and they've already found out what does work. So you can call upon then all the different franchisees who have done it before and say, how well did that franchisor help you bring in the business based on what they do for you as far as marketing? That way you get a good feel for the business itself. So while they're not just going to hand you a book of business and say, these are the people, you call these people, they're all waiting for you, not necessarily. In some cases that is true, but not the general rule. Most of the time they'll say, this is the kind of things you do for marketing and advertising. This is what we've shown in many different cities and states that have proven results. You do this, and here's all the marketing stuff. You don't have to come up with yourself. You just put it in this newspaper or in this online or whatever you do. And this is the results we've had in the past. And then you can follow that up by asking the franchisees who started that business, did that work when you did what the franchisor told you? Ask enough of them. You want to start hearing the same thing over and over again. Hopefully good on that one. And that's how you validate and do your due diligence process, by checking out that franchise.
And I'm assuming that you charge an additional, as in addition to the franchise fee, you charge your own consulting fees to help people.
No, I'm free.
You're free.
I'm free. Franchisors pay me a referral fee. I work with a little over 500 different franchisors on there, so I am free to my clients.
Oh, so you're the referrer. Oh, that's very interesting. So regardless, there's going to be a referral fee. Oh, that's very smart business model. So let's bury down a little bit more into the type of personality that should be going into getting into a franchise. And I have a second question is, so you see all the time, you see like Shaquille O'Neal has like 505 guys, and all these big celebrities have all these huge amounts of like franchises. Are they just the marketing engine behind it and the money behind it? Like, what's behind the scenes here with these huge celebrities that are actually invested?
They get a team. They have already got a team of people that are going to do it for them on there. They're just the name and the face. So they just go out there and shake the hands, kiss the babies, and say, yeah, go into my restaurant. It's great. That's what they do on there. It's the same as if you want to get into something semi-absentee, and you could do the same thing they do, just on a smaller scale. If you don't have millions of dollars, if you have hundreds of thousands, you could do it on a smaller scale where you become an area developer and you have a few different burger places or something of that sort where you can build up, and you just put that team in place. And that's what Shaq does. Here's my team. I turn it over to my team. They run it. Simple as that.
And he keeps doing that. They just turn and move it along all the time. I mean, it's really an incredible way that he's built wealth. He's like a picture. He's worth about like $500 million right now. and it's I think a lot of his wealth is built through franchises, and it's probably like the best. It's probably like the best marketer when it comes to franchises. I heard something interesting the other day that Bill Ackman says some of the best investments he's ever made was actually in the restaurant business, and he loves owning restaurants. And I'm sure it's on the franchise. Another conversation I've heard, and Dad, you were part of this too, at one of the conferences we went to, was we heard the old CEO of Wetzel's Pretzels. It's obviously everyone knows Wetzel's Pretzels in every mall. And what they had to do was they had to basically push all their franchisees to change the way that they're doing business and to change the way of types of pretzels that they're actually putting out to their customers, and that helps save the franchisees. So it's also like running and strategy, and there's a lot more to it. But let's talk about like the type of person who actually wants to, like, there's a few pieces. Like, obviously me and my dad would say, hey, we give you money, but we never have to talk about it. We just collect cash flow. Like, is that something that we could possibly do? Or is it only really just people who are just who want to get operating? It's not really just pure like passive investment investors.
No, not pure passive investment whatsoever. We don't have any franchises that are pure passive in my portfolio. That doesn't mean there's not any out there. There's about 4,000, 5,000 franchises out there in the US. I work with a little over 500. So many different franchises. The ones that I work with, none of them are purely passive. They do want you to have some involvement in there. They do like to keep you in the same area to start with, 30, 60-mile radius of where you live, or pretty close to there too. So you can be the name and face of that franchise out there. So there will be some involvement. You will not be working in the business in general. If you want to, I can certainly find you a franchise where you can do some of that yourself. But if you don't want to, most of the people who don't, most of the franchises don't want you to do that. They want you to really be the name and the face out there of their franchise system, locally owned and operated type thing.
Very interesting. And the franchises are fixing the pricing, and you don't have to do anything. You're really just showing up
That's
and
the
trying
whole
to
thing. They're
network.
giving you a turnkey operation,
And you're just bringing in business. That's really the main.
They're giving you the marketing. They're giving you the data to figure out. Okay, you're going to be in this area. You're going to this is what should generate in terms of sales within 10% up and down, whatever. And you put in this work. This is what you should be getting. This is what we've seen before, and we've done this 100 times. And now we're going to do it again for you in this area. So, but you may, if you're brick and mortar, you may have to wait for the right location. You may not be able to jump in right away.
So yeah, that's very interesting. What are some online, like less physically intensive franchises that you could think of?
We don't have anything specifically that's online, because anything online is going to compete with Amazon. We don't have anybody doing that. There's no, if from your point as a business owner, there's no physically challenging franchises out there, because you're always going to have somebody else doing the business yourself.
Sorry, they'll help you find the manager as well and like interview the manager?
Some of them, they will not interview the manager, but some of them will help you find the manager, especially the ones that when you go into electrical and plumbing, on that, you don't necessarily know where to find a master electrician or a master plumber. So they will help you do that. With the senior care, to find the right caregivers, senior care is huge business as well, great business to get into. They have like a list of questions and what to look for in potential caregivers, so that you can start picking out the best caregivers to help out mom and dad. So while they don't necessarily hire them or interview them with you, they will have a system and a process for you to help you to go find the right ones.
Yeah, it's super interesting, because you hear about all these caregivers that these nursing home companies, and we hear a lot in, like, in our community, like the yeshivish community and the Hasidic community. It's like huge in the nursing home business, but it doesn't sound like they're going to the franchise space, but it sounds like they're going more into like doing it themselves. But I'm sure that they could be doing even better with the franchise space, and to have like mentorship and all the other coaching. It's like you're basically
I don't think those people
eliminating.
in that world would like to listen to anybody. They're not
I
good
don't.
at.
Yeah, that's true.
They're not good at hearing what people have to tell them.
They're not known for their brains. Just, we say it all the time. Just because you have a lot of money doesn't make you smart. So it's like, yeah, they do really, really well.
They've done very well, but
they really can't. They can't think outside the box for a second. Like, or they don't like to be told what to do. They like to be shady and things like that. Like, they make money though. But what would you say right now is the hottest franchise right now that people are getting into?
Before COVID, we had a big yogurt push. Yogurt died out. After COVID, the big push was essential services. Everybody wants something that, no matter what happens with the economy, people are still going to use it on a regular basis, no matter what.
Like what?
Electrical, HVAC, plumbing, senior care, tutoring, and then building services, maintaining buildings, cleaning them. Those are the ones where people see that it's needed all the time, no matter what the economy does. Uh, People are going to be using these services, and people are going to need the services all the time.
Interesting.
So are you, just to be clear, so is that what happened to the yogurt people? Like you're saying, like yogurt services died out, but at the beginning I asked you a question, like which franchises suck? Is it yogurt is dead now? Like nobody has like what happened to those people? They just lost the money that they put in?
So no franchises suck. I wouldn't go that far and ever say anything
Sorry
sucks
if I
on
offended
them.
the franchise
Quite all
team.
right. Quite all right. I put myself out there a little bit. I would say some of the more challenging ones, like when right before COVID, they had that big yogurt thing. So everybody, loved yogurt. They really wanted to get into it. And they were making a lot of those yogurt shops were making some decent money. But then we got too many people that said, "Oh, I've got a yogurt concept as well. Let me just franchise that." And as it turned out, not all of them were as good as the first few that started out on there. And the whole fad, it was kind of a fad, and the whole fad kind of died away. So that uh, customers wouldn't come in and do the yogurt quite as much as they did to begin with. So it's one thing, as David indicated before, you got to look at how the money's coming in and what's the business concept and how it's going to maintain itself in the future. That's another thing that a lot of people didn't look at with the yogurt, is how sustainable is that model on that. So I wouldn't necessarily say it sucked. I would say it's probably more inundated with too many different concepts. So it was a challenge to pick out the one that was actually going to win the race out of all of those.
Well, I think what you said is correct. Like if it's a fad type of thing, it's not going to be sustainable over the long term. But people might want to, oh, I want to sell yogurt because it's the next hot thing, and let me get into it as fast as possible. So that's the franchise method, because they're going to tell me exactly how to do it instead of making me. I'll make the mistakes myself. I'll be able to know a turnkey operation, and I can be selling yogurt in 2 months.
Good point. Very good point, David.
All right, so I was right. I think I offended some people, but I brought some truth out to the franchise conversation. But
I don't think those people, the yogurt franchise people, are going to be even listening to this anymore. There's, they probably
you never know.
their doors.
You never know. You never know, Dad. I wouldn't count your yogurt chickens before they're hatched. So just
I'll try not to.
Don't overdo it on the negativity of who's listening, who's not listening. But I know my wife and your wife are not listening to these episodes by any stretch of the imagination, Father.
No, we know that.
We know that, so we can say whatever we want. It actually makes it very convenient.
Can't say whatever we want.
No, can't, because somehow
yogurt chickens. I think we have to watch out for.
It's not kosher. But so Greg, you've had this like very interesting career, and you've had these like tough moments of building franchises and building businesses. Where do you see this resilience come from, and where do you see you really are able to pick out the right franchisees? How are you able to see yourself in other people that they would be successful?
I know what I've done in the past, become successful. We didn't have a lot of money growing up, so I had to actually start a couple businesses. When I was 10, I would collect bottles and aluminum cans. And back then, this is kind of dating myself, but those bottles were like 10 cents a piece. So they really added up quick, and so did the aluminum cans. So if I wanted to buy anything or get anything, I had to go out there and do it myself. So I started collecting those, and then I got some of my friends together, and we started going to businesses, and we'd clean up their
You
back
franchised
alleyways.
out the bottle collecting to your friends.
Yeah,
It sounds like.
I probably should have had I known anything about that back then. I should have, but we put together a little team, and we cleaned up the back alleys of a lot of businesses, and then we got to keep all their aluminum cans and bottles for that. And then I went on to becoming a paper boy. Ran a paper out. That was back when you used to go door to door collecting money for people. You probably can't do that these days, but knock on the door, collecting for the Democrat, and they give you the money. And so, and that was I was about 14 when I did that. And then I first got in the world of franchising when I was 16, and I worked for Taco Bell. But looking at all that is what I look for in my people is, their resilience and what have they done in the past, and how successful they've been, because their past success really shows that they will be successful in the future. The stock market, they say, past success doesn't necessarily mean future success. Well, in the world of people, past success certainly does mean future success, and that's why I look for very successful people who have shown that they've done well for themselves in the past, and I know that they will do so in the future in whatever they get involved in. My people are just a little fearful because they've done it all in the corporate world. So I just got to show them that, you've done this in the corporate world. You've been successful. You've had a great career in the corporate world. Now, franchising is going to be somewhat similar, except instead of helping somebody else make their fortune, you're going to be doing it for yourself on there. So
Yeah,
that's what I look at.
we call it bank mentality. It's when you're so used to this, like running, people giving you what to do, you're making your money, you grow over time, and it's really hard to come out and actually be an entrepreneur. So it's a big challenge for people. So it's the bankers. It's
You're
really
not
tough.
involved with the people once they're signed up with the franchise. You're not involved anymore with those people. Like they're not calling you to help or whatever.
Generally not. Occasionally they might. But no, you're right, David. After they get involved with the franchise takes over, and that's usually it for me.
You're not calling you to complain. Well, Greg, you told me this and that, and it's not happening, and I'm not getting this support, and the people aren't buying those yogurts, Greg.
I never put anybody into yogurt shop, so I never had that problem, David. So I was fine.
Exactly, Dad. I don't know what you're thinking, but what have you put into people that they yelled at you for, Greg? You could tell us the truth.
Oh, I was helping a gentleman. So back when the Regis Corporation that ran Supercuts, they were selling their corporate locations on there. I helped them with that. Everybody helped them with that, actually. And they were their corporate salons, their Smart Style Supercuts on there. I sold a little over 300 of their units in there, but I had a gentleman that really wanted a lot of them, and I had him up to like 80 units, and he wanted some more. So I called up and checked on some of my people, how they're doing. I called up this one guy who had purchased a 3-pack. He bought 3 of them, and he said, "If you're calling for a recommendation, you're calling the wrong person. These things suck." Okay, there you go. Sorry, there's one. Those 3 locations of Supercuts sucked, apparently.
All right, that's good. I would like to see a franchise like hair plugging or whatever. That would be interesting. There's a lot of franchises you can do.
Yeah, but he complained. He said, they ran them into the ground and all that. I'm like, I'm not calling for that. I'm calling because I got somebody that wants to buy them from you.
So did he sell?
If you don't want him anymore, I'll get you out of them right now. So that was the only person that actually ever.
Did he sell them? Did he sell out?
I got him together, and I do believe that he was bought out. The other gentleman bought him out, and did that, and took over his as well. So that was nice. Yeah, I never got a thank you for it or anything like that. But,
thank you. In this world.
I got him out of them.
You got to keep them at tuchus. That's really what you get. That's very nice of people. But Greg, tell us where people can find you. Can you tell people about your book? I know a lot of it's like do it yourself, but also obviously touching base with someone like you is really, really crucial. How can people get connected with you? How can people find you?
You can go on my website, franchisemaven.com. That's franchise, MAV as in Victor, EN.com. Email me at greg@franchisemaven.com, or just pick up the phone and give me a call at 361-772-6401. And they can pick up my book, Real Freedom, Why Franchises Are Worth Considering and How They Can Be Used for Building Wealth. You can pick it up on Amazon, of course, which is where I'd prefer you to go. Unless you want a free copy, then you just go to my website and download the PDF version and get a free copy. Step-by-step process. Walk you through everything you need to know about what to look for in a franchise, real-world examples of people that I have worked with. And the very last chapter is on a couple of gentlemen who turned their business into a franchise and how that works.
Well, amazing. Greg, thank you so much. I will not be referring my brother to you because I don't think it will happen. But one day maybe he'll get there. Thanks for coming on, everyone. Thanks for listening. I hope you learned a lot from this episode. I mean, this is you're talking about serious wealth that you can build if you can focus and find this.
The right person, it's a great option. It's a great alternative.
It's amazing. But Greg, thanks so much for coming on. Everybody, thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, gentlemen.